Let's talk about Maul Shadow Lord for a little bit. Because this is a TV show that, when it was announced, I was interested in it. But I wouldn't say I was excited about it necessarily. Darth Maul's a character ever since Phantom Menace. I've enjoyed seeing him on screen. Like, he's got a good presence about him. He's very skilled, very deadly. But then when he was brought back in Clone Wars, to the people who may not have seen that show, he is like he was resurrected after being cut by Obi-Wan, and it looked like he died. But they brought him back in Clone Wars, and they've done some really good character writing with him. And it's another installment in his story from a different point in the timeline than what we've seen before. But I really appreciate him as a character, and even though that's not the original voice that played him, Peter Serafinowicz, I think. So. I don't know how to say his last name, but Peter from Phantom Menace, he hasn't done the voice of Maul in a while. But Sam Witwer does it on Clone Wars, and then he's done it on Clone Wars, Rebels. He's in a cameo in Solo. If people haven't seen Solo, he's in that movie for a brief moment. That was pretty cool. So I'm always interested to see more of Darth Maul in the Star Wars universe. So I was happy he was getting his own show, but I didn't. But I was like hesitant about it because I'm like, it sounds like a cool idea, but I wanted to see what the execution was like. Thankfully, the execution is good with this. Like depending on your like backstory with the character, you may like this show, you might love it, you might not entirely get all of it, but I think it is worth watching just to see what it's like because it like even though you know that it's the same creative team that did like Clone Wars and stuff before, but this show does really do some different ideas with the whole setup of it. The like first of all, having an antagonist be the main character is really a really cool idea, which I think they probably should do that more in Star Wars because there's some really cool antagonists that they haven't given much screen time to. This is kind of a cool idea for a series to do, and while they had to Maul makes the most sense if they're gonna do a villain that's the main character. His story makes sense because he was a villain established in the prequels, was nearly killed by Obi-Wan in battle, then comes back with a vengeance in Clone Wars, obsessed with killing Obi-Wan, revenge what he did to him. But then he evolves further than that. He has the relationship with his brother Savage, and they have the and then they end up becoming not Sith lords. They go a different path. They actually become crime lords in the galaxy, uh, taking all these crime syndicates that were independent and actually uniting them under him as the leader, which is such a different idea than like when I think about Darth Maul, I never would have thought of like him as a crime lord, but it actually really works, and I think it's a really interesting look at the galaxy because you saw his perspective as a Sith apprentice, and then after that ran its course, he had to find another way to survive in the galaxy because Sidious just tossed him aside basically and got Count Dooku and then Grievous and then Anakin eventually. So seeing his perspective, he was against the Republic because he was like helping start the war with Palpatine, and then Palpatine left him for dead. So now he hates Palpatine too, his former master. So now he's kind of in the middle. He's between, like, he was against the Jedi and he's against the Sith too. So he has Sith training. He still uses, he still fights with his lightsaber. He still does like meditation and stuff, but he's not really a follower of that religion anymore, which is really interesting to see that perspective is very different. Now I've got the character poster here. Just wanted to kind of highlight some of them. Like right behind him, you have Devin, who is a young Jedi that survived Order 66, because there were a bunch of those apparently. Uh, I guess there must have been literally thousands of Jedi, so I guess the clones couldn't have killed all of them off. So we got Devin, and then her master Daki is behind her with the blue lightsaber there. It Their dynamic is interesting in the story and how they all meet up. They cross paths with Maul and his group of criminals that are working for him. Because you get like three different perspectives in this movie, in this TV show. You have Maul and his criminal organization that works for him. You have Devin and Daki, who offer a former Jedi perspective on it, who they're not, like, obviously they know who Maul is, or at least who he was back in the Clone Wars, so they know that, like, he's not really trustworthy, but circumstances make it to where they kind of have to work together at different points. So that alone was interesting. That was a cool idea. And then you have Lawson and his son, and then all of their, like, the police of that planet that they're on, which I can't think of the name at the moment, but anyways, that's another perspective. You have people who technically work for the Empire, but whenever Darth Maul is spotted, the Empire takes notice of that world and then begins a siege of it. Basically, becomes martial law, becomes just a nightmare to exist in. So you see that these people that have just been working for the Empire, because like it's the new administration, because just recently after the Republic fell, like it's like a rebranding of the Republic, so they don't entirely get that yet that this is a really bad thing until it comes close to home for them, and you see the Empire's upping their presence on their planet and how bad it could get for the people living there. So there's a lot at play in this show. Like, if you like Darth Maul, you'll get a good fix of him as a character. But it's not just about him. It's about a lot of things. It's about a lot of characters, a lot of ideas. And I don't know if I mentioned him. Lawson is the character's name. He's like a detective, if I remember right. He like these guys who sees like the footage of Maul on the planet, and then is trying to figure out like who this guy is, what kind of trouble he's causing their world, and he's got his droid Two Boots, who's really funny, and then his son Riley, who is like they're like he. I like the little bit of scenes between them that they have kind of a strained father-son relationship, but they still care about each other, so that is nice, a nice little dynamic there. And then just as the show goes on, like they add more layers to all the characters, and they turn up the heat. Like with every episode, the situation is getting worse on that planet because they hear about Maul, so then the Empire ups their presence with the Star Destroyer and with a bunch of stormtroopers and Imperials there. But then they bring in the Inquisitors too. Two of the Inquisitors come, and that's when things get really bad because now they're being hunted by soldiers, they're being hunted by locals, they're being hunted by people, the Imperials that are above everything on the planet, and now they have these two Sith assassins basically with deadly lightsaber skills hunting them. So it's just like a what do you call that? Like a pressure cooker situation. Like just it keeps cooking longer and longer, and it keeps getting worse as the for the main characters as the series goes on. But I like that even though it's a Maul series and he has a good amount of focus, they make me care about Devin and Daki and Lawson and Riley and Two Boots and all these characters. Like they really tried. They really put effort into all of it. So I appreciate that. The animation, I wanted to just briefly say, the animation is similar to the Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff, like what you've seen, but there's like a airbrush quality to it, where if you took a shot from this series, like of the cityscape or like two characters talking to each other, like it's like just a shot of it, it looks like a painting. And I'm not entirely sure how they did this, but it's really cool looking. Like whenever they're like when Maul's twirling his lightsaber, there's nice little flourishes with the blades and everything, and then there's always like a little bit of texture on the characters' faces and their clothes, their armor, the vehicles, like the buildings. Everything has a texture to it that is just like like the next evolution of what they've done with the animated stuff. That's just a really cool little bit of detail they didn't necessarily need to do, but I appreciated that. So this is a show that there's not a whole lot you can spoil outside of the final episode, because they have been building up the pressure on all the characters really well for those episodes. There's only 10 episodes, if I remember right. And their release strategy was interesting. They did 2 episodes a week that are like half hour each. So you got like an hour of Star Wars television for 5 weeks. Ended on May the 4th, which that was kind of cool. But the last 2 episodes, honestly, are just insanity. Like the how many people are going at are getting trying to get the main characters on the planet, and then them trying to escape. They got the two Inquisitors hot on their trail, like that close to getting them. But then there's one more character that shows up in the final episode, and I'm not going to spoil it because I want you to, if you guys haven't seen any of the posters or anything, don't, because it will spoil who's there. But I think the way they've handled that character and when they show up in the show, terrifying. And I just one of the best uses of that character I've seen in a long time. So you can put two and two together who I'm talking about. But like some of the character stuff by the end of the season, you can kind of see it coming. Some characters I thought that were going to be dead by like halfway through the series actually make it to the finale, which I thought was cool. But yeah, a whole lot of characters do die in the finale. Won't say who, but they some of it is surprising, some of it isn't. It just depends on how much you know about storytelling and that kind of thing. Like setup and payoff, like what you can see. But it ends on a great episode. The aftermath of that, they're dealing with all the characters that have died, or they there's some characters that got separated from each other at the end, so they're trying to figure out how they're going to get back together with the people that they got separated from. It's a cliffhanger ending, but it's a good cliffhanger ending. Because we're getting season two. If we weren't getting season two, I would be frustrated. but they have faith, they have confidence in this show for good reason because they set up everything really well. They ratcheted up all the tension they needed to. They they executed the character growth and the characters that die were well done. I just This is a great bit of Star Wars. If you are at all curious about it, I think you should check it out. Again, it might not be for everybody because I know animation's not everybody's cup of tea, but just from a storytelling perspective, I think that this is interesting enough in its own right that you could check out and get something out of it if you have Disney Plus and watch it. But the way it sets up with Darth Maul and Devin are kind of like the lead characters by the end of the season. So you understand like where their characters are going for season two, but now that they're like together as a team. So it and if you know anything about a certain character from Star Wars Legends, they might be adapting that character with a different way with Devin. So that's a cool little tease if that's what they're doing. So I think that's definitely the intention. Don't know how different it's gonna be than the Legend. It's gonna be pretty different than the Legends version of the character, obviously, but just the fact that they're taking ideas, some small ideas from Legends and incorporating it, that's cool that they had that just as an inclusion. See, I don't hate the Legends stuff like when it's done correctly. Like the way they did it in Rise of Skywalker, I don't appreciate, but the way they did it in this series, and well, with Dave Filoni, despite any issues you might have with him as a director or a writer, I think he does do interesting things with the stories that he writes, where he can take some stuff from the EU and put it into the main timeline in some interesting ways. Like Thrawn was the big one that he since he got that one right, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with him pulling from the EU as long as he does the best he can with that material to make it work in the canon. That's cool. I'm cool with that. So Maul Shadow Lord, it's out of the four things that I've talked about tonight, it is my favorite thing easily. I would let's see if I since people are obsessed with numbers and everything. Say how would I rate this out of 10? I would say it's at least a 9. Like at weakest it would be a 9 out of 10 for me because I know it's not going to resonate with everybody the way it would resonate with me, but it's exactly what it needed to be, and it made me excited for more. So it did surprise me in some ways. So that's a pretty good Star Wars project in my opinion. Mandalorian and Grogu, I would give it's more of like an 8 out of 10, I would say. Like it's perfectly fine for what it is. I enjoyed my time with it and I would enjoy watching it again, but it's not doing anything as groundbreaking. So it's fine. Then Rise of Skywalker, it's bad. It's bad. Like I think it might be my least favorite Star Wars still. I have some appreciation for it. You can listen to my commentary with Jade if you want to understand the some of my positives about it. I tried to outline it here best I could. They It just didn't work for me overall. I'd give it like maybe 3 out of 10. It's really not my cup of tea, and big downgrade from all the rest of the sequel trilogy, which I understand a lot of people have issues with. I have some issues myself that I'll get more into next time whenever we talk about more stuff. But then Phantom Menace, I think when I was talking to Jade about it during the Rise of Skywalker thing we did, I would I would want to give it a 7 out of 10, but because of the many issues I have with it, I'd give it a 6, which still is probably a lot higher than most people would say, but I think it's perfectly like in the middle. Like it's not. It's in the middle with the like. So I would say a 6. Like if it was in the middle and I didn't like it, I would say 5 because it's just like whatever, like a flat line. Like I don't really care about it. But this one, because there was just enough to give for me to give it a like, I would say that it, despite being very flawed, I still enjoy it. But I wanted to know what do you guys think about these four different things, and what do you uh, what do you think about my opinions? Am I completely off on things? Do you? I just want to hear what people think if they want to share it, and just I try to be respectful about everybody's opinions here, so please do me that courtesy. I would appreciate it if you did that. Um, but next year, I want this to be an ongoing thing. I've got some system issues clearly to figure out before then to make it more consistent because this is like the third time I've tried this live stream and just had finally kind of worked. So next time, hopefully it'll end up better for you guys. Hopefully I'll get some more engagement. Hopefully everything will go according to plan, like what the original plan was. But let me know what you guys think of this setup and this idea, if it will work for you uh, going forward. Like I was mentioning with the whole Flame Wars concept. So we did episode 1, episode 9. Next year would be episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and episode 8, The Last Jedi. That one's going to be spicy. So if you want to like be a part of that, I know it's a year away. I know you might forget things, but if you subscribe, maybe you'll see it. That's the deal I'm offering you. So if it, appreciate you guys watching this. If you guys, whenever it does find an audience, hopefully somebody finds it. But happy birthday, Star Wars! That you looking great. What can I say? Not many franchises look as good as you do at 49. But next year it's the big 50 years, and I'll have some other things to talk about specifically with that one. Like it'll be a little bit different than this, but I really appreciate it if you guys have watched this and have listened to me ramble for 2 hours. I really appreciate you guys, and uh, happy Star Wars. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy everything, and may the force be with you.